There is a moment that catches you completely off guard, a moment so quiet that when you look around your apartment and realize nobody is there, no text messages lighting up your phone, no calls coming in, no one asking how your day was, all that remains is you and the deafening silence that fills every corner of the room. And if you are watching this right now, there is a good chance that is exactly where you find yourself tonight. It starts so slowly that you do not even notice it happening at first. The way people gradually stop texting you back. The way people gradually stop texting you back. The way plans get canceled one by one. The way phone calls that used to last an hour now end after just a few minutes of awkward small talk. Then one ordinary evening, you pick up your phone and realize with a cold shock that it has not made a single sound in weeks, that the friend group, which used to tag you and everything, still posts their photos and still gets together on weekends. But now they do all of it without you. You tell yourself that it is perfectly normal, that people simply get busy with their own lives, but somewhere deep in your chest you already know the truth that you have been trying so hard to avoid. They did not get busy, they made a deliberate choice, and that choice was not you. Maybe the person you loved packed a bag one evening and said those quiet, devastating words that you will carry with you for the rest of your life. Something like it is nobody's fault, it just is not working anymore. And you heard every syllable, but you did not truly feel the weight of them. Not until the door clicked shut behind her. Not until you found yourself sitting on the floor of that empty apartment with nothing but the echo of her footsteps fading down the hallway. Or maybe your family still calls on holidays, but they do not really understand who you are or what you are trying to become, and they love you in the only way they know how. But that love comes wrapped in criticism and unsolicited advice about getting a real job, settling down, and stop chasing dreams that make no sense to them. And eventually, you stop trying to explain yourself because you realize they would not understand even if you found the perfect words. So you quietly pull back from everyone, and the distance between you and the rest of the world grows a little wider with every passing day, until one morning you wake up and realize that the colleagues at work who smile at you in the hallways and ask about your weekend are not actually your friends, because you understand the difference now. Friendly is someone who makes small talk by the coffee machine, but a real friend is someone who looks at your face and immediately knows that something is wrong even when you are pretending to be fine. And that is when it truly hits you, when the full crushing weight of loneliness lands on your chest like a stone that you cannot lift, and you finally have to admit to yourself that you are completely alone, not the peaceful kind of alone where you chose solitude because you needed space to think, but the other kind, the unwanted kind, the kind of loneliness that you did not choose because it chose you. Your chest feels permanently heavy. Your apartment suddenly feels far too large for one person. Your bed stretches out cold and empty beside you, and late at night you find yourself scrolling through old photographs from happier times, studying the laughing faces of people frozen in a world that no longer exists, asking yourself over and over again what went wrong, what you did to deserve this, what is so fundamentally broken inside of you that everyone you ever cared about eventually decided to leave. But I need you to stop right there, because there is something critically important that you need to hear before you spiral any further. People do not leave your life because there is something wrong with you. They leave because life itself is constantly changing, and some friendships were only ever meant to last for a single season. Not because those people were bad or dishonest, but simply because that is the natural rhythm of how human connection works, where you grow steadily in one direction while they grow in another, or perhaps they evolve into someone new while you stay exactly where you were, and both of those outcomes are completely natural and perfectly okay. But there is a harder truth hiding underneath that comfortable explanation, which is that some of the people who left your life were never truly there for you in the first place. They were there because you were convenient, because you were useful, because when you had money in your pocket and status to share, they sat at your table and laughed at your jokes and called themselves your closest friends. But the moment those things disappeared, the moment life got difficult and you actually needed someone to lean on, watch how fast every single chair at that table emptied out. And that is not a loss, that is clarity you simply could not see the truth about those people while they were still sitting beside you, Britannian. Maybe she needed to leave to find herself. Or maybe you needed her to leave so that you could finally find yourself. And I know that sounds absolutely impossible when the wound is still fresh. But one day, years from now, you will look back at this moment and understand with perfect clarity exactly why it had to happen the way it did. As for your family, they are not cruel. They are just scared, because they do not know how to help someone who is struggling. So instead of offering comfort, they reach for the only tool they have, which is criticism disguised as advice. And if you can learn to see fear hiding behind those harsh words instead of hatred, everything about that relationship will start to make a little more sense. Here is something that absolutely nobody tells you about being alone. Something so counterintuitive that you probably will not believe it until you experience it for yourself. Being alone and being lonely are not the same thing, because you can be standing in a room packed wall to wall with 100 people who know your name and still feel more invisible and disconnected than you have ever felt in your entire life. And that hollow, aching emptiness you feel in the middle of a crowd is what real loneliness actually looks like. But at the same time, you can sit completely by yourself in a silent, empty room and feel more whole and more at peace than you ever thought possible. The terrifying silence that surrounds you right now, the silence that keeps you up at night and makes you reach for your phone hoping someone, anyone, has sent you a message. That silence is not your enemy, because it is actually the exact place where you will finally discover who you truly are underneath all the noise, all the expectations, and all the performances you have been putting on for other people your entire life. Because here is what happens when everyone leaves. Something strange and unexpected begins to shift inside of you, and you gradually stop performing the version of yourself that other people wanted you to be. The agreeable version that always said yes when it meant no. The smiling version that pretended everything was fine while quietly breaking apart on the inside. And when that exhausting performance finally dies because there is no audience left to perform for, what rushes in to fill the space is not emptiness but freedom. Real, genuine freedom to sit in the silence and hear for the first time the questions you have been drowning out for years. Questions like, what do I actually want from my life? Not what my parents wanted from me, or what society expected of me, but what do I truly want? That question is one of the most terrifying things a person can ask themselves, because the vast majority of people go through their entire lives without ever sitting down and honestly confronting it. Instead, they fill their days living out answers that were handed to them by someone else, following paths that were chosen for them, and never once stopping to wonder whether this is really what they would have picked if somebody had given them the freedom to choose. Being alone strips away every comfortable distraction and forces you to sit face to face with yourself. And the truth is that some people simply cannot handle what they find when they look in that mirror. So they run. They run back to relationships they know are toxic because familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar silence. They run back to friendships they know are fake because having someone to text at midnight feels better than staring at a dark ceiling alone. And they will do absolutely anything, sacrifice any amount of dignity, to avoid spending one more evening in on of dignity, to avoid spending one more evening in honest conversation with themselves. But I am asking you not to run, because if you can find the courage to sit still and look at yourself without flinching, you will discover something that changes everything. You are not broken, you are simply unfinished, and every single person walking this earth is unfinished in their own way. Because growth never stops, and you are not supposed to be a completed masterpiece at this stage of your life. Some of the people who left will drift back into your world eventually, but only once you stop needing them to return, and the ones who never come back, well, that is actually your answer right there. A clear final sign that they were never truly yours to begin with. I want to share something with you that took me years of my own loneliness to finally understand. The right people in your life do not disappear when circumstances get difficult. The right people show up precisely because things got hard, and you have not met those people yet because some of the best human beings you will ever know do not even know you exist at this moment, but you will never find them if your hands are still clinging to the ghosts of everyone who already left. So let them go, every single one of them, even the ones whose memory still makes your chest ache, because your hands need to be completely empty before they can reach out and hold something new. Now let us talk about what you are going to do, step by step, starting right now, tonight to not disappear, when circumstances get going. The first thing you need to do is stop reaching out to people who stopped reaching out to you. And I understand that this is incredibly hard because every instinct in your body is screaming at you to send that text, to make that call, to find some way to pull them back. But you need to resist that urge because chasing someone who already knows exactly where to find you is the fastest way to destroy whatever self-respect you have left. The second step is to physically get yourself out of that apartment, not to go to a party, not to drink until you forget, but simply to move your body through the world. Because when you walk through a park at sunrise or run along an empty street in the early morning, something mechanical breaks loose inside your head, and the obsessive loop of painful thoughts that has been spinning endlessly behind your eyes finally begins to slow down. Third, you need to start building something that belongs entirely to you, whether that is a project, a skill, a daily habit, or anything at all that you can point to and say, I made this with my own hands. And you should build it not for money, not for followers, not to post about on social media, but purely for yourself. Because what you really need right now is to prove one simple thing, not to the people who left, but to yourself, that you are capable of starting from absolutely nothing and creating something real. Fourth, find just one genuine human being, not 100 new friends, not 50 acquaintances, just one real person you can sit across from and have an honest conversation with. Someone you met in real life and not through a screen, a neighbor, a coworker, someone you see at the gym, because one single authentic human connection is worth more than 1,000 shallow ones. Fifth, start writing, keep a journal, talk to yourself on paper, and pour every poisonous thought out of your head and onto the page. Everything you are too ashamed to say out loud, everything that frightens you at 3 a.m, everything you blame yourself for, write all of it down knowing that no one will ever read these pages because that is the entire point, since this conversation is between you and you alone. And sixth, you must stop punishing yourself for decisions that other people made. Because you did not break this, they chose to leave, and you can either spend the next several years torturing yourself with the question of why, or you can invest that same time and energy into building whatever beautiful thing comes next. Here's what I will promise you. And I am not someone who makes promises lightly or says things I do not genuinely believe. If you commit to doing these things consistently, 1 year from now, you will look at your life and barely recognize it, because the person staring back at you in the mirror will be someone you have never met before. Someone stronger, someone quieter, someone who earned every scar and wears them without shame. New people will begin appearing in your world, not because you went desperately searching for them, but because you slowly and quietly became the kind of person that good people are naturally drawn to. Your confidence will return. But it will not be the loud, showy confidence you had before. This time it will be something deeper and more unshakable. The kind of inner certainty that does not require applause or validation. The kind that grows from knowing in your bones that you survived the absolute worst thing that could happen to you and came out breathing on the other side. And one evening, maybe a year from now, maybe 2, you will be sitting somewhere warm and safe, surrounded by people who genuinely care about you, and your mind will drift back to this exact moment, to the night you sat alone in that empty apartment convinced that your life was ending, and for the first time you will understand with total clarity that it was not an ending at all, it was the night everything actually started. So, if you are watching this tonight from an empty apartment where the silence is so loud it feels like it might crush you, I want you to know that this is good, because the silence means the noise is finally gone. The performers have left the stage, the people who were faking it have disappeared, and the only person still standing in that room, the only one who did not leave, is the real one, and that person is you. Now stand up and start building.